This is an interesting thought, but I have to say this. If I actually believed in the Bible and let's say the Bible was true, just presuppose the Bible is true, then Satan is not an enemy of God, not even in the least bit. Satan would be an agent of God, that Satan and God are on team. Give me a minute and I'll explain why. So when you look at the biblical stories, you have to recognize, except for the Revelation story at the end, that Satan and God are working in tandem. But the unfortunate part is that Satan is actually working as a slave of God and not actually working as equal with God, as a equal warrior, or even as a warrior who has a fighting chance against God, but is actually working as a slave. The reason why I will make this proclaim if I actually believed in the Bible, because according to the Bible, the angels were made prior to the creation of the earth, creation of the universe. And therefore, the angels were made in the presence of God. So if I believe the Bible, then I would say that when God said, let us make man in our own image, that God was talking to a heavenly council that included all of his angels. Now, we know that this Yahweh God comes from the Canaanite pantheon, so therefore it could have been the pantheon. But we're going to just say the Bible is true. So God had his heavenly council of angels, and this is demonstrated in other time frames. When he's speaking with Job, there is the heavenly council to which Satan appears. There is also the heavenly council that happens in 1 Kings. So therefore, there is a heavenly council. There's also the angels in heaven that are with God at the time frame of Revelations, and they're supposed to be screaming and yelling and fighting for God. But angels tend to be slaves that are just there to do the bidding of this God. Angels are sent to give messages. Angels are sent to even defend themselves against man when they blinded everybody who had came to Lot's house. So these angels are not people they're not beings, I should say, who have the ability to determine what they want for themselves according to most of the rendering of the Bible. This is why Satan had to ask God for permission to do all the things that he did to Job and Job's family. That only through the power of this God is he given that permission to do so. This is also why when Jesus goes to the man with legions of demons in him, the demons bow down to Jesus and ask if they could just go into the pigs because they were afraid. So this would indicate that these angels are just there to be enslaved by this God. If you read some of the Bible and it talks about what's going on in heaven, as I was told as a young child that we'll just be praising, singing, holy, holy, holy all day long. But in your reading of it, you'll realize that it is actually seraphims who will be running around in a circle above the throne of God, screaming, holy, holy, holy for all eternity. That is their only purpose during that time frame, is just to scream, holy, holy, holy. Another cherubim is set up to be the guardian over the way to the Garden of Eden so that no one could ever find it. He was given a job. Some Christians even believe that the angel that came down and was distracting the donkey, and the donkey started talking when Balaam was riding on the donkey, was actually Satan. So in this instance, Satan would be an instrument of God, would be one of God's slaves that has to do God's bidding. And why else would Satan, knowing that he's going to lose the battle, continue to do God's bidding and go by the playbook? Unless he's being told by this God to do so, and he has no choice but to do so. Now, some would say that the Bible does give angels free will because a third of the angels battled against God and made a determination that they're not going to follow this God, which kind of flies in the face of people saying that when you go to heaven, you will be a new creature, you'll be changed, and you will only want to worship this God. You wouldn't have a desire to not do anything else. You wouldn't feel remorse over the fact that your family members and other people are burning in hell or went to annihilation, because most Christians are going away from the idea of burning in hell for all eternity and are focused more on just complete annihilation. But you won't have any remorse or feelings about that because you'll be in the presence of God, and in the presence of God is nothing but glorious. But if in the presence of God there's nothing but being glorious, then how were a third of the angels able to come to the conclusion that they're going to fight against this God and start a war in heaven, as it is quoted in Revelations that's actually quoting from the books of Enoch, where there was a war in heaven. And how can this war in heaven have happened prior to the story taking place in Job? Because Satan, who was supposedly cast out with a third of the angels, is there present in heaven with God at this heavenly council, at the meetup, at the get down and party, let's have a conversation symposium. Satan was there. If he's not an agent of God, he can't be anything else. He's an agent and he's a slave to just the will of this God. And if this God was truly God, he would not need a heavenly council. He would not need agents. He supposedly can do all things. So why does he need Satan? Other than the fact that man just created the whole story to explain why man does evil things, why man has evil thoughts, why man speak evil words. Satan and this God are all man-made creations. But if they did exist, the angels in heaven are in a worse situation than man. I mean, man has an opportunity of redemption for screwing up multiple times. Satan supposedly only screwed up one time, and he either is going to totally annihilation or he's thrown into a lake of fire to burn for all eternity with the consciousness of burning and knowing that he's burning for all eternity. Tell me again how this is a good God. This is why we deconstruct. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.